Hi everybody, it's Agnes, and many of you have asked me over the years my full how I attracted my specific person story. Now, I do think if you're going to listen to people on YouTube, knowing that they have manifested what you are currently trying to manifest is obviously a part of trusting that they know what they're talking about. So I'm going to share my side of the story. I'm going to share with you my journey and how I ended up with a wonderful, loving relationship with my specific person today. So, going back, I think about 8 years, I met my specific person. We were, at that time, living in different countries. I was in Australia and he was in England. And we developed a friendship. I was at that time coming out of a long-term relationship, and I had a bit of time of having been on my own, but I was still suffering from the effects of what had happened. Now, my specific person was incredibly supportive. He was very giving. He was very loving. He was very kind. And he really helped me to get back on top of it mentally and emotionally. And he's he is the strongest person I know mentally and emotionally. And probably physically too. Just a very, very strong human being. Why? Because he's had a very good grounding in his own family and he got a head start. Even though there was not a lot of material things growing up for him, he had an incredibly sound base from his mum and dad, and he grew up understanding love, self-worth, understanding about a power greater than himself, and all of that over the years he's developed into someone who is very sound and very stable. Okay, so when I was struggling, he was able to help me to, over time, develop that in myself. But what happened was, as he was helping me, as he was giving me his time and his energy on a regular basis, on a daily basis, really, I became very used to that. And I became very dependent on that. And I always wanted more and more and more. And what happened over time was he started to get annoyed and get, angry with me because I wasn't doing it for myself. So as much as he gave, I was then living off his energy, living off his knowledge, living off his ability to get back up. Now, he said to me once, well, more than once, I'm not put on this planet, on this earth, just for you. And I look back now and I think I had a very expectancy about me in terms of he had done this for me for quite some time, a year or 2 or 3 at that point. And I wasn't developing that within myself. I was leaning more on him. And I was emotionally not very strong. Mentally, I was doing the best I could with meditations and affirmations and things, but I was still relying too heavily on him. So in time, it created arguments. It created me being over emotional. It created me looking at the glass half empty, not looking at what was given, looking at what was not being given as much. But really what was taking place was he was wanting me to develop this within myself. And that was a hard lesson for me. So I can look back now and say that was the best thing that could have ever happened, because I was leaning too heavily on someone who was very strong mentally and emotionally, and I was not leaning on my own self. Even with the knowledge that I had about the law of attraction, even with the knowledge I had about Neville, even with the knowledge, when I was in this emotionally weakened state, I was taking the easy route, you see. So, continuing on, What happened was it created arguments, it created difficulty in the relationship, it created him pulling back some, and even to the point where he would say to me, you're not for me, you're not for me, you're not for me, you're not for me. He said that to me over and over again, and I would get really hurt, I would get really upset, I would feel devastated, and everything was the end of the world every time something like that happened. And I would either get sick or I would take days off work. I was just emotionally so not good. I just was not able to sustain myself emotionally at that point. And the relationship really affected me. But when I look back, I can see he was trying to pull back to get me to develop myself and for me to stand up on my own 2 feet and to become self-sufficient. So, and really, he was still supportive throughout that time. He just was trying to help me leg up for myself, which was good. It was a good thing because I was, when I look back, leaning much too heavily on him emotionally and mentally. And, you know, this person has their own life. They have their own job. They have their own family, you know, family members and et cetera, things in their own lives that they needed to deal with. So they couldn't just be on tap there for me. So then the real work began. I had to work on deeper levels of clearing the old stuff within me through Ho'oponopono, through meditation, through practicing self-love the best I could. And I won't say this was a quick process. Look, it took a good 2 or 3 years for me to get really secure and really stable, because I'd be stable for a bit and then I'd fall down. And I'd be stable for a bit and I'd fall down. And over the years, when I look back, it did get steadily better, but I did have a lot of learning in terms of feeling that I was rejected, feeling that I was hurt, feeling that he didn't want me, feeling that I wasn't good enough, feeling that I was not important, that I wasn't a priority. And really, it was all created by me and my over expectation of somebody being there for me and doing the helping mentally and emotionally so I could get stable. So worked on myself and continued to work on myself. And I do think over time, because we met up in London in January 2016, I do have the YouTube of how that happened, where I had a sign about coming to London and how that all happened quite quickly. Unfortunately, it was a great sign for me, but what happened was I put a lot of pressure on him in terms of I didn't give him enough notice. I had expectations he would come and get me at the airport, but the thing is, it destabilized this person's life by me jumping in and doing things at the last minute, which, you know, is very selfish of me at that time to do so. So came to London and then ended up meeting up just as friends, no expectations, but still really feeling that strong, loving connection about this person. But at this stage, they were still very wary of me because I was an energy drain leading up to this. So, you know, he did keep me at an arm's length, and he did get to know me slowly, and he did watch what I was saying, watch what I was doing. And he was still, don't get me wrong, he was still supportive, but he was a bit wary of me because I had that you give me an inch and I'll take a mile attitude still within me. So I had to eat humble pie, really, and learn that, again, someone isn't the source of my supply. And I have to say, out of all the relationships I've had, this person is the most stable, the most mentally strong, mentally focused, positive person who takes care of himself extremely well through food, through sleep, through giving to others from that place, and you know, helps many people, not just me, but only does it when the energy levels are good and has got very good self-care and self-worth. So when I came to London in January 2016 and we connected, I was very happy to see him and very happy to connect, but I was still very emotional because I was still trying to get my sea legs about really filling my own self with my own self-love and being able to give that. And at that point I didn't have a lot to give, I'll be honest. Still learning that lesson of topping up and still having come from that real state of taking, okay? So it was a lesson for me in learning to stop getting, stop trying to get. So from that point, I then went back to Australia. We had built a little bit more of a connection, but I was still, I think, a little bit of a hard work case in terms of I was still just demanding in my energy around being loved, being supported, being given to, all that stuff. So over that sort of 3 or 4 years from then, the process has been about learning to fulfill that within my own self. Now, I remember an occasion, and my specific person reminded me of it this morning, about how when it was his birthday, we had said we would do something for his birthday, and someone had asked me, a woman had asked me to cover her job in London, working at this Airbnb for a period of a week or 10 days, I think it was at the time. Now, I had said yes, and then she changed the dates. So when she changed the dates, I was then not able to go and see my person or be with my person for his birthday. Now, what I should have said to her was, look, I could have done it on the dates you said. I can't because I'm going away with my partner. So you'll have to organize something else. But what I did was I went into, I've made a commitment. I have to stick to it. I can't come with you for your birthday. And I really totally made the wrong choice. I went into overlooking after someone else and not being present for my partner, which I think now would have been good if I had, just been honest with my friend and said, this is my partner's birthday and I need to be there with him for his birthday. But for some reason I just wasn't able to do it, and it did cause an incredible emotional reaction. Well, he was probably more accepting of it than me, just said, well, that's fine, get on with it. Whereas I was completely eaten away by guilt and feeling that I had made the wrong decision and feeling that I couldn't be there for his birthday. And also, if he had done that to me, how would I have felt? I would have been livid. So looking back at those times, I just wasn't able to say what I needed to say and wasn't secure enough to make those choices and decisions clearly and easily and put my partner first at that time. So, this, of course, then impacts the relationship in a negative way, and that was created by me. So that's one instance where, not making the right choices I have to take responsibility for that, and then, obviously, not do that again. So there are, so many points in the journey where I can see my weaknesses, where I can see how much I didn't feel good enough. How much, even though I was being supported by this person and being, really helped, really with the mental stuff, to become stronger, but still reverting back to all the emotional stuff and creating dramas when really something was this big and I would make it into something this big. Now, that's probably cultural. The French and the Italians are very much known for creating dramas over nothing. So I will say that, but it doesn't mean that that's an excuse that I can lean back on. I needed to correct that within myself. So it is very much the journey where it's up until this point. So I'm going to end this YouTube now, and I will do a part 2 as to how things are today.